stood at the front lines of law, leadership, and public service. Attorney Karen Jimeno, sharp, steady, a lawyer, and educator, turns complex issues into clear insight. Attorney Mike Toledo, seasoned, fearless, a strategist and communicator whose voice has shaped public understanding of law and governance. Together, they make the law accessible, connecting principles with real-life questions, confronting the issues that define our nation. This is Abogado.
Good evening and welcome to Abogado, the program that pulls apart the legal knots behind the headlines. I'm Attorney Mike Toledo. Tonight, a tragedy at sea has become a test of the law. The police first called it an accident. Investigators now say it was not. Let's trace the line between a heartbreaking accident and a crime.
They came as teammates, young, driven, and full of promise. A training exercise in the waters of the Bacolao Aurora ended in tragedy when a rip current swept members of the Ateneo men's basketball team out to sea. Most survived. Rene Baterboña and Divine Adili did not. Police ruled it an accident. But the law asks a harder question. Were proper precautions taken? Who was responsible for their safety? And when does a tragic accident become criminal negligence? Tonight, we confront a question two grieving families still ask. Who bears criminal liability for the Ateneo drownings?
And with us tonight are two seasoned litigators. Attorney Carlo Ybañez is a litigation partner at the Chavez, Miranda, Aseoche Law Office with more than 2 decades across civil, criminal, family, and labor cases. And before we proceed, we note for the record that Attorney Carlo is an Ateneo Law graduate and serves as counsel for one of the athletes. We disclose this relationship to our viewers in the interest of transparency. And of course, joining him is none other than Attorney Ferdinand Topacio, managing partner of the Topacio Law Office and one of the country's most prominent trial lawyers, known for the hardest and most closely watched cases in our courts. Counsels, mga panyero, good evening and welcome to Abogado.
Good evening, Attorney Mike.
I'm glad that both of you were able to make it despite the traffic.
Yes.
Now, here is how the hour will run. Each guest begins with a short opening statement on tonight's central question. We then examine 2 subtopics with opportunities for direct exchange and questions throughout the discussion. We then conclude with final reflections from each guest. Now let's revisit the events at the center of tonight's discussion. On June 8th, a conditioning drill or team building in the Bacolao Aurora ended in the deaths of Ateneo players Rene Baterboña and Divine Adili. Local authorities first treated it as an accident. The CIDG now raises questions of negligence and possible criminal liability. Now, Attorney Carlo,
Yes,
in
ma'am.
general, what kinds of liabilities can the law recognize when someone is harmed during a supervised activity? And how do these liabilities differ? You have 2 minutes.
Okay. In situations like this, there are always 3 kinds of liabilities. The first one is, of course, yung pinakamabigat is the criminal liability, which is, alam naman natin, the penalty is kulong. But you also have to prove it harder, beyond reasonable doubt. No? So in this case, the general rule is that there's no crime if there's no criminal mind. This is the exception with respect to criminal negligence. So there does not have to be a criminal mind. Pag merong negligence, pwede nang maging criminally liable. That's the first. The second would be civil liability, which is damages. So if it's damages, ang parusa dito is bayad, which is damages. No, yun yung bayad. And the burden of proof here is mas mababa, which is preponderance of evidence lang. It does not have to be proof beyond reasonable doubt. So mas mababa. When you file a criminal case, kasabay na pag-file ang civil liability. Unless, of course, you file a separate civil action for this. No? And the third liability would be administrative. Administrative if the school merong mga violate na mga rules regarding sa mga administrative supervision like the DEX, mga ganyan, administrative liability yung papasok dyan. So these are the three kinds of liabilities that may attach to whoever is found responsible here in this situation. No? Ang pinaka-importante dito is they have to prove that there is actually negligence, criminal negligence, not just negligence. So if it's an accident, and even if meron konting negligence, but it does not amount to criminal negligence, hindi papasok ang criminal liability.
Thank you so much. That was indeed a very comprehensive discussion on what are the laws involved. Now, thank you, Atty. Carlo. Atty. Ferdy, the local police found no foul play. We all know that the sea, especially in that area, can turn into something worse
very treacherous.
without any warning. It's indeed a very treacherous area. Where is the danger in letting grief decide the law and in treating a genuine accident as a crime? You have 2 minutes.
Well, in this case, of course, the initial findings would not bind anyone because as stated, those are initial findings. And before I proceed, I would like to give my assent to the learned and very erudite discussion of our good friend here.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think he laid the law down very well. So, if I may focus now on the facts of this case without going into things that are in dispute or are subject of conjecture, like, for instance, the presence of hazing or any other matters,
Yes.
Collateral matters. The facts are simple here. The facts are, as proven, are as follows. The accident occurred around 300 to 700 meters from the safety of the resort where the officially sanctioned or the scheduled so-called team building exercise was supposed to have occurred. Number two, as you've said, the seas around that area are treacherous. They change at any moment. The supervisors or the people overseeing the activity, meaning the coach, Coach Baldwin and his assistant Kimpo, should have reasonably foreseen that circumstance. Number three, as found out by the authorities, there is a measurable and substantial gap between the initial disappearance and the call to emergency services. There is even a more significant gap between the initial disappearance, the discovery of the body of Baterbonia, and then, which was almost an hour after he initially disappeared. And because initially, at the outset, it was only the lifeguards who were summoned. So, taking all of these into consideration, I think, of course, this is conditioned on the assumption that the facts are proven that there is criminal negligence on the part of at least the coach, the assistant coach, and by extension, Ateneo, because of the doctrine of respondeat superior.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, attorneys. Now, one thing is certain. I totally agree with you. That was a very good presentation, as I mentioned earlier, about what are the laws that govern this particular incident. But at the same time, you pointed out that the facts will be crucial. So I guess you could conclude that at the end of the day, the laws are there, the laws are clear, the different doctrines, whether if it's criminal or civil, whether it's vicarious liability or the other type of negligence. But the thing is, the facts must be established. It will be the facts that will determine exactly what kind of liability whoever will be responsible or found guilty of.
Correct.
So yun po ang dapat nating bantayan kung ano talaga ang mapapatunayan ng prosecution pag nagkaroon ng kaso na final na kriminal or kung civil man, and yun nga, the preponderance of evidence is only what is needed, which means it's a lower requirement of evidential presentation, dun pa natin po makikita talaga. So thank you again, attorneys. When we come back, we go straight to the criminal question. Was this an accident or was this considered under the law reckless imprudence, which is under Article 365 of the Penal Code? So stay with us. Don't go away. You're still watching Abogado. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. You're still watching Abogado. Tonight's question, who bears criminal liability for the Ateneo drownings? Our guests are Attorney Carlo Ybañez and Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. Now, Article 365 of the Revised Penal Code punishes reckless imprudence, the absence of precaution rather than any intent to harm. The CIDG says the team went some 700 meters out past the resort's safe zone and beyond the reach of its lifeguard into dangerous waters. Now, Attorney Carlo, how does law distinguish a genuine accident from reckless imprudence under Article 365? What must be shown before negligence becomes criminal?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Attorney Mike. Before I answer, I'd like to say na yung reckless imprudence, I had a band before. Ang name namin, Reckless Imprudence. Ateneo. So, medyo alam ko yan. Anyway.
I don't think you can tell, you mentioned the name of your band on TV.
Pwede naman. Jazz naman eh. The Jazz Holes.
The Jazz.
Siguro kaya ganito yung ugali ko, no?
Ako naman, sa UP, meron kaming UP Law Charivari.
Yeah.
You should explain to them what that means to the layman.
It means discordant noises.
Yeah.
But I believe you were far from discordant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
So, regarding
please.
the question, when does it become reckless imprudence? So, reckless imprudence actually is criminal negligence. So, hindi lang basta negligence yan. It has to be criminal negligence. There are at least 4 things that has to be proved. The first one is, was there a duty, depending on the situation, merong bang duty? In this situation, let's say we are looking at the liability of the school or the coaches. Meron ba silang duty? Ano ang duty nila? To keep the children safe, right? To make sure that they come out safe with respect to that incident. So the duty, nandyan na yan. But the more important thing that has to be determined, was there a breach of that duty? Meron bang breach? Yan ang kailangan malaman. And this will be shown after investigation. Depende kung anong lalabas sa investigation. No? Meron bang breach sa duty? And 3, ito rin isa pa, was there, maprepredict ba nila yung nangyari? If after they take on their duty, nakita nila, etong accident man nangyari, was this predictable? Or is this non-predictable? If it's not predictable, then it's an accident. So even if they exercised all their duty, hindi naman nila na-predict yung mangyayari yon, then that's an accident. And the last one, yung negligence nila, is it the cause of the death? Isa pang importante yan. Baka naman meron ngang negligence, let's say simple negligence, pero hindi naman siya ang cause ng death. So these are the things that you have to determine to know that whether or not there's reckless imprudence or not.
So sinasabi mo, there must be a direct causation. Parang
Yes.
the proximate cause of the injury or the death must be the negligent
Yes.
act
Correct,
of,
correct.
Of the
Of whoever.
supervisor
Yeah.
or whoever.
Of
Okay,
whoever.
very good
Yes.
point. Now, thank you so much, Attorney Carlo.
Yes.
I would like to hear you play your bass guitar next time.
Yeah.
Now, Attorney Ferdy, we all know that a rip current that is sudden is quite unpredictable, and the local police saw no foul play. Does a verbal warning really make this danger foreseeable in the eyes of the law? Or are we stretching negligence to fit a tragedy?
Well, palagay ko, I'm a swimmer, so I know what a riptide is. And I've experienced that more than once, especially in Coron. But, when it comes to these things, the warning means that there is some predictability. According to the people staying there, and according to the police also, that portion of the sea is prone to riptides. And that is why there was also some talk that there were warnings issued. And I believe that the coaches, the overseers, yung mga superiors ng mga basketballista, ay dapat pinakinggan yung warning na yon at hindi na sila nag-take ng risk na lumayo doon sa isang lugar, for instance, the resort, kung saan madaling humingi ng tulong. But as attorney, our good friend here, restated the law so very well, it all depends on what can be proven. But for me, what is execrable here, Attorney Mike, is the fact na parang naghuhugas kamay na agad. ang Ateneo as an institution. Sinasabi na nila ngayon at through their representatives na it was not officially sanctioned. Pinag-resign na lang nila yung coach, si Tab Baldwin. And what I believe to be really bad optics is the refusal of Baldwin to cooperate with the investigation of the CIDG. He immediately lawyered up, which sends a very bad vibe to the general public. I mean, karapatan naman ng kahit sino na kumuha ng abogado. Ngunit kung hindi ka pumunta, abogado mo lang yung pinapunta mo, and this is something that you should take direct responsibility for, napakasama po sa paningin ng mga nagmumuni-muni.
Thank you very much, Attorney Ferdy. But you have to also recognize the fact that eventually he did apologize. He really man up to it and apologized and actually accepted the liability because of what happened.
Yeah, that apology is nothing. Apology without taking responsibility, without being taken into account for what happened is nothing. 2 lives were lost. Pwede ba namang apology na lang yun? Pwede ba lang pasensya na, namatay yung mga anak nyo, yung future na inaasam-asam ni Baterbonia para sa kanyang pamilya, inabura na? Hindi naman pwedeng ganun lang yun.
Now, how about the possibility of the liability of the local government unit involved here? What do you think? You first, Attorney Carlo.
Well, the local government, again, ano ba ang duty na ina-expect natin sa local government? What could they have done? No? Of course, sinabi na walang coordination. Now, if they coordinated, what could they have done? Are they required to send mga lifeguards? Are they required to supervise? Hindi naman eh. They're not required to do that. So, for me, my point of view here is even if the local government was involved, very limited ang magagawa nila. Hindi naman sila kailangan magdala ng police. This is not their duty. Of course, they can do that if they want that, no? Pero hindi naman nila duty yan eh. So, I think the local government, very, very limited ang pwede nilang magawa dito sa situation na to.
Now, how about the resort owners? What do you think? Is there any liability on their part, Attorney Topacio?
It would appear that the incident happened outside of the resort. I think that has been established beyond doubt that it was around 700 meters away from the resort. And according to reports, notwithstanding the fact that it was outside of the bounds of the resort, nonetheless, nag-exert pa rin ng effort yung may-ari na tumulong dun sa rescue. So, tama rin ang sinabi ng ating kompanyero na it's quite a stretch to make the local government responsible. I believe it's also quite a stretch na panagutin yung may-ari ng resort.
Do you think, based on the initial facts that you have uncovered, apparently because you clearly have some of the basic needed details, was there a warning given by the LGU, warning given by the resort owners, or were there warning signs that would tell anyone who would like to go to the sea at a particular time perhaps, or that it would be risky or actually totally prohibit anybody from swimming? Because I've seen those signs in other countries and even here, do not swim. Although sometimes I did violate that. But anyway.
Ako rin.
Haven't we all?
So, what do you think? As far as you know, based on the evidence that you have uncovered, were there warning signs or verbal? Were there posters or those big billboards warning people to stay out of the water?
The reports thus far are sketchy. May nagsasabing, sinabihan sila na delikado ron. May iba namang nagsasabing wala silang nakuhang babala. Kaya nga sabi ko, there is really a necessity for Mr. Baldwin to appear before the investigative bodies and give his version. Also, for, one of the athletes is the client of our friend here. So, I believe that will be crucial to the investigation na yung mga aktual na naroroon sa scene ay magbigay ng kanilang mga salaysay. Ang problema, may mga ibang nagsasabi na nandun sa scene. I'm not talking about your client.
Yes,
parang ang sinisisi pa yung mga medics na nag-resuscitate. For me, that is also quite a stretch because as the timeline will show, it was almost an hour before the bodies were recovered. Drowning yan eh. Gaano ba katagal para malunod ang isang tao? So, the question of whether the resuscitative methods were competent or skillful or not does not come into play. I believe that when they were recovered, they were already dead.
Now, how about the fact that for the past 3 or 4 years, I believe, they have been doing, the varsity team, the basketball team, would be doing their team building in that area. And nothing happened. In fact, a lot of people are saying that the reason perhaps that Ateneo has been winning also was because of the training that they would undergo. Aside from the usual training in the gym, they have this team building which really makes you very close and tight. How you treat that fact na 3 taon, 4 na taon, ginagawa naman yun and nothing happened? How would that fact be treated if you were lawyer for the prosecution or lawyer for the defense?
Well, before I answer that, thank you, Atty. Topacio. I would just like to put on record that my client is participating in the investigations. So, hindi kami umiiwas sa investigation. No? Regarding the question, what happened before actually is not controlling kung ano nangyari ngayon no? There are different facts, different things that could have happened 3 years ago that could have happened now. So in the situation of the court, no, medyo we cannot say na mahina or malakas yung part na yon, no. It simply does not control or it has no effect on the case now because especially in criminal liability, no, in criminal cases you have to focus on the situation itself. Kung anong situation ngayon, ano ba ang nangyari ngayon, no? Bakit ngayon, minalunod, 3 years ago, wala naman. So dito dapat tayo mag-focus.
How about
ngayon.
civil liability?
Same.
The level of evidentiary evidence is lower.
Same. Kasi you really have to focus on the situation itself, no? Not on what previously happened.
Now, Atty. Topacio, how about the anti-hazing law? Because there was some talk about hazing, but of course, again, this was not established by any facts. So I guess that the anti-hazing law has no application here.
Yes, I want to be fair to all concerned. So
Good.
I would not say that there was hazing. Lamang, kasamang Mike, what I want to bring to the fore here is that while athletic glory may be important to an institution, baka naman sa sobrang pagnanasa na manalo sa athletics ay someone threw caution to the winds in order to train their athletes. Parang nawala na. Safety was not put at the fore of this activity. Kasi from what I've read, hindi ako fan ng college basketball Pero what I've read is that for a few years now, Ateneo has not been in the winning line insofar as basketball is concerned. Baka naman sa sobrang kagustuhan to train hard the athletes in order to regain their former glory ay nawala na yung pag-iingat at nawala na yung pagtingin sa sitwasyon kung ito would cause harm or danger to the athletes.
Kaya nga talaga very important, mga panyeros, no? Talaga the facts really.
Correct, correct.
The level of the exact liability of the individuals or even an institution would really depend on the facts to be presented, whether it be criminal liability under Article 365 or the civil liabilities under Article 2176 and 2180 of the Civil Code. So talagang kailangan po natin huwag makalimutan sa ating mga nakikinig ngayon na ang importante dito ay pruweba. Ang importante dito ay facts. Kaya huwag tayong maghaka-haka. No, let's not involve ourselves in conjecture. And the sad part is, this tragedy is being also, shall we say, taken advantage of, no? And kung ano-ano ng issues ang pumapasok na hindi naman talaga dapat. So, anyway, thank you so much, attorneys, no? Now, up next, even if no one is charged with a crime, who answers for the loss in civil terms? And can a school be made to pay? This is Abogado. Don't go away. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. You're still watching Abogado. Even if criminal liability is uncertain, civil liability may still arise under Articles 2176 and 2180 of the Civil Code. Negligence can create liability for both individuals and institutions. Also in play, the resort's duty as occupier, Coach Baldwin's work permit, and a congressional inquiry now examining the team's private sponsors. Now, Attorney Carlo, can you explain the concept of duty, breach, and causation and damages? I sort of touched on that,
Yes.
on that a little earlier.
Yeah.
And why are they central to civil liability?
Okay. Yun nga, we discussed this a while ago, no? So these are the things that you have to prove to see that there is liability, no? Actually, whether civil, whether criminal, applicable siya pareho, no? But let's focus on civil liability. Kanina sinabi natin, you have to prove what the duty is. This one is a lot easier to prove, no? Because it is provided by law and it is provided by our common sense, di ba? So, ano ba ang duty ng mga coach? Medyo madali yan. Ano ba ang duty ng mga supervisors? Of course, they have to keep the children safe, no? They have to be sure that these children will, well, I'm calling them children, but these athletes would come home, di ba? Madali ma-prove ang duty. The harder one to prove is the breach. So, you prove the duty, you prove, was there a breach? Was there a violation of the duty? Hindi ba nila sinunod tong duty na to? No? And again, this is a factual issue. Malalaman natin to after investigation. And then causation. Like we said kanina, was the negligence the cause of the death? Because there might exist a negligence here. It might be simple, it might be grave. As long as it exists, that's not the question. The question is, kaya ba sila namatay dahil sa negligence ng whoever, the coach, the school, the resort, the local government, whoever? Ito ba yung cause ng pagkamatay nila? So again, this has to be proved, no, by factual evidence. And lastly, damages. Damages is, I think this would be a lot easier to prove kasi this is, again, first of all, provided by the law. Moral, actual, exemplary damages. No? It's provided by the law and death to eh. So pag meron talagang death, alam natin, it's really damaging to the family or hindi lang sa family, sa public in itself. Diba? So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Attorney Carlo. Now, Attorney Ferdy, these were adult trained athletes who entered the water knowingly. So how far do assumption of risk and contributory negligence carry, and can they ever fully excuse the organizers?
Para sa akin, no. Because as stated in the PSBA case, of which we are all familiar, when a person enrolls, there exists even an implied contract that these people will be educated. At sinabi noong Korte Suprema, dun sa PSBA case, how can you educate people when they are in danger, when bullets are flying and grenades are exploding? Okay, true. These athletes, the two fatalities were adults. Pero let's get real. These are young people. They see athletics and sports as a way out of their poverty or their situation. Pagdating yan sa Maynila, mga probinsyano yan, ang tingin yan sa coach, Diyos. He's a demigod. So, notwithstanding the fact that they willingly trained, they willingly subjected themselves to team building, still, we cannot discount the fact na kung anong sabihin ng coach. Pag sinabi ng coach, sumugod sa tubig, tumakbo ka sa tubig, lumangoy ka dyan, punta tayo rito sa labas ng resort, hindi makakatanggi yan because of that situation of moral superiority or authority of the coach. And that coach, we must remember, is an employee of Ateneo. So, civilly speaking, under the doctrine of master and servant or respondeat superior, at least civilly, the civil liability, the liability of Ateneo as an institution, as an employer, and as the educator of this sportsmen is very clear.
So you're pointing to Article 2180 here.
Yes.
On vicarious
Yes, vicarious liability, yes.
Okay. Now, let's open another round for discussion. Mga panieros, does the concept, I remember this when I studied long time ago in civil law, does the special parental authority apply? If I'm not mistaken, the Latin term for that is loco parenti. So,
Yes,
I'll start with you, attorney.
Okay. Through whom? The school? The school or the coaches?
Let's go with the coaches, then we talk about school.
Okay. I will be very careful in my statement. I don't want to preempt the facts, no? Kasi nga, ang facts natin, hindi pa siya established, no? We don't know what is kung merong negligence sila if they breach their duty.
Yeah.
So, the operative word is if. I will emphasize on the word if. Kung merong nakitang negligence, no? Kung may nakitang negligence, will it reach unang-una the coaches, no? The coaches, their duty, gaya nga ng sinabi ni Attorney Topacio, the duty is very clear, no? Provided yan, hindi lang ng batas, pati noong cases natin. The Supreme Court said that meron talagang cases. So, the duty is clear. The question is, was there a breach of that duty? Yan yung factual na kailangan nating malaman. If there is a breach of duty, I would say na mag-a-attach sa mga supervisors or sa school itself. But again, that is a very, very big if on my part, on the part of the investigation.
So again, talagang nahuhulog talaga sa facts. Kailangan may pruweba. Yung mga factual allegations ay kailangan ma-prove, and if it's a criminal, it must be proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Pag ano naman, at sinabi mo earlier, pag civil liability, preponderance of evidence. Ang ibig lang po sabihin nun, mas mababa lang ang level ng proof na kailangan. Ngunit, you can still be held liable. Kaya nga, paulit-ulit ko sinasabi, importante talaga na ma-establish yung facts. Doon malalaman kung ano talaga ang magiging extent of the liability of all the people involved and if ever, even the institutions. Now, mga panyero, sinasabi nating which forum here, in your view, offers accountability?
Ako? Offers accountability, which forum? Of course, babagsak tayo dito, sa court palagi tayo dyan. The court will always determine who is liable. Pero, we cannot discount the duty or the share of our law enforcement agencies. Because, again, this is a factual issue. Malakas ang factual issue natin dito. So, the investigators, the NBI, the CIDG, ang role nila dito is very important as well. No? They are the ones who will look on the evidence. This evidence will be submitted to the court later on. Kung meron magkakaroon ng kaso later on. And the final determination will always be the court. And they will say who is liable here if there is ever someone who is liable here.
Thank you very much, Attorney. Now, Attorney Furley, you already mentioned, Coach, no? And you mentioned that doctrine that was regarding superior, no?
Respondeat superior.
Respondeat superior. Magaling ka talaga sa Latin. Now, ang tanong ko naman, was Coach Tad considered an employee or an independent contractor? Because we all know may different legal ramifications yan, di ba?
Yes.
So, sa inyong pananaw, was he an employee or was he an independent contractor?
Well, hindi ko alam yung actual na contract. Ano?
Okay.
Pero para sa akin, it would not matter because whether as an independent contractor or as a regular employee of Ateneo, nonetheless, under the doctrine which you very ably discussed, Attorney Mike, yung substitute parental authority na nasa civil code natin, that when you are in the custody of an educational institution, may locus parenti. So, since the coach and the coaching staff were all connected with Ateneo, then they are still duty-bound, in my view, in my humble opinion, to exercise bonum pater familias, or the diligence of a good father of the family in overseeing the activity of a person enrolled in the educational institution. And what is bonum pater familias? It is the diligence of a prudent man who, looking at all the surrounding circumstances of a particular time and place, would foresee any danger. So in real terms, lahat tayo, palagay ko mga ama naman, ano? So kung merong isang lugar na nandoon, kasama mo yung iyong anak, at sa tingin mo, may danger, it would be prudent na halimbawa, tatawid ba kami dito ng anak ko? Ano naman, meron namang pedestrian lane, ngunit nakikita natin maraming sasakyan na mabilis. Wag na lang. Umikot na lang tayo. So para sa akin, well, from where I'm sitting at least, with all the established facts, that duty of good father of the family was not discharged, at least by the coaching staff.
That's a very good point. Exercise of diligence of a good father of family. I still sort of remember my civil code. And again, that has to be shown, of course, by whoever will be the respondent. But at the same time, it is incumbent, if it's a criminal case, incumbent on the prosecution to show that there was none, right?
Yes, definitely.
Now, I've been hearing and reading that even Congress, I understand, is looking into this. Do you think if Congress looks into this, and obviously they should look into it because in aid of legislation, diba? That's what they always say. No. Now, sa tingin niyo po, kung titignan ng Kongreso ito, meron bang mga batas ngayon na kailangan sigurong baguhin or kailangan palakasin o kailangan dagdagan para perhaps maiwasan na itong mga pangyayaring ganito?
Para sa akin, sorry for the term, pero para imbestigahan pa ng Kongreso ito, palisim na lang eh.
Palisim?
Oo, kasi lahat ng batas nandiyan na. Kahit sabihin natin yung far-fetched na hazing, may Anti-Hazing Act na tayo, amended in 2018 to increase the penalties. Meron na tayong yung doctrine ng substitute parental authority. Meron na tayong doctrine ng torts or wrongful death. Yung negligence, imprudence, lack of foresight, or lack of skill. Nandiyan na po lahat even administratively, as very beautifully elucidated by the good compañero here. Kumpleto na po ang batas. I do not see what other law we can add to this. It's all a question of now applying the law to a set of facts that can be proven in court.
Your view on that?
Well, agree ako kay Attorney Topacio, epalisim. Ako naman,
that's a new term.
Ang word
for the
ko
night.
naman dyan,
Epalism.
sabi mo in aid of legislation, di ba? Pag mag-investigate sila dyan, baka in aid of re-election na lang yan, di ba? Di ba? Kasi, yun nga, congressional investigations has to be in aid of legislation. Hindi sila nag-iimbestiga para magparusa ng mga tao. Hindi sila nag-iimbestiga para hanapin kung sino ang liable. The only duty of Congress para mag-investigate is to determine whether or not they can pass a law. And agree ako kay Attorney Topacio, magaganda ang batas natin. And it's complete. So, it's a matter of implementation. Implementation na lang yan.
Well, actually, marami naman talaga tayong batas na magaganda eh. I think there's a plethora of very, very, very good laws, really. From investment laws to civil laws to criminal law. It's really a question of how it's going to be implemented and executed.
Yes, when it pertains to these situations, well, settled na yung mga doktrina. Wala nang pwedeng idagdag para sa akin.
Correct. I agree. Kaya nga factual ang issues dito Hindi na siya legal. It's factual ang issues. Yes.
Kaya nga, again, uulitin natin. Talagang at the end of the day, hintayin natin yung mga facts na kailangan pa rin patunayan. Now, kung ano lang.
Sabi nga nila, at the end of the day, it's nighttime.
yung pag kasi para maintindihan natin mga tagapakinig, no? Kasi sinasabi natin, pag criminal case, proof beyond reasonable doubt. Pag civil case, preponderance of evidence. So, kung ganon, and may nakalatag yung facts, pag preponderance of evidence, anong klaseng ebidensya ang tama na para ma-held liable na yung kung sino man, civilly? I can start with you first, then Attorney Ferdy.
Well, the difference talaga is proof beyond reasonable doubt. Kung hihimayin natin yung term, beyond reasonable doubt, ibig sabihin, ang duda mo, konting-konti na lang. Pwede magkaroon ng konting duda, pero dapat konting-konting duda. Yung halos hindi ka na nagdududa. Ganon kabigat ang kriminal. No? With respect to civil liability, it's just preponderance of evidence. So, if you are convinced, for example, you're a judge, or even if you're a layman person, nakumbinsi ka na as a layman, as a normal person, as a layman, nakumbinsi ka na merong pagkakamali yung isa. That is preponderance of evidence. Mas mababa siya. Pwedeng meron kang doubt, pero because of the evidence presented to you, you are already convinced na merong liability. So, mas mababa talaga.
Attorney Ferdy.
Yes, tama yung sinabi niya. Ang preponderance of evidence, lumamang lang ng konti yung other side, pwede na. Yung isa, although absolute certainty is not required, moral certainty is required. Siguro para mas mabilis maintindihan, parang sa Senado yan. 13, pwede na sa Senate President, di ba? Preponderance of evidence. Pero to convict for impeachment, 16. Parang ganun siguro. Something like that, ano?
Magandang topic yun next time. No? Gamitin ka natin yung 13, yung 16. Kung pwede bang bumoto ang mga naka-detain o nakakulong. But that's another potential episode on Abogado. That was just a teaser of the issues to come. Again, thank you very much mga kompanyero, mga attorneys. Maraming salamat. Now, after the break, a short break, we'll be having our closing reflections on our central question: who bears criminal liability for the Ateneo drownings? This is Abogado. Don't go away. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. You're still watching Abogado. From a sudden current off Aurora to the question of who must answer for it, RR has traced the hardest line in the law, the one between an accident and a crime. Two readings sit side by side. One sees a foreseeable danger ignored and a duty broken. The other, a genuine accident no warning could have undone. Now, let's hear our closing thoughts. Attorney Carlo, your final word.
Okay. For me, in this situation, I agree with Attorney Topacio when he said that the law is already here and the law is clear. So, what we have been saying since the beginning of this episode is that we have to determine the facts. So, ang gusto ko lang sabihin sa mga tao is, let's not jump into conclusions, no? As of now, merong mga facts that are already established, but there are still facts that must be established. Ongoing yung investigation ngayon, no? The CIDG has conducted some investigations kanina, pero medyo malayo pa, nagsa-start pa lang investigation. So until and after we determine the facts, that's the time that we will know who is really liable here, no? Like I said, pinag-usapan natin kanina yung mga duty, yung mga breach na yan, we will know who is in breach of their duty. We will know who is negligent. Until that time, I think we should hinay-hinay lang tayo sa paghuhusga dito sa situation na to.
Maraming salamat, Atty. Carlo. And now, Atty. Ferdy, your closing reflections.
Para sa akin, beyond criminal or civil liability, dapat dito ay magkaroon ng institutional accountability. Kung yung sinasabing Rodante Marcoleta at Harry Roque doctrine, someone has to pay. Oo, kasi anyway, para sa akin kasi there were so many tragedies already in this country. Ferries capsizing, people drowning, bridges falling down, buildings that are substandard collapsing after the initial brouhaha. Nalimutan na. Powerful institutions get away with it dahil very short ang memory ng ating mga tao. Ito, again, uulitin ko, ang kinaiinis ko rito, naghuhugas kamay na naman ang isang institusyon, which is the Ateneo. Parang naaalala ko tuloy yung sinasabi na ang root word daw ng suwitik, Jesuita eh. Kasi parang, why doesn't Ateneo just step up and say, katulad yung pinag-usapan natin during the break, we are responsible, we are sorry, it will not happen again. We will extend whatever help we can to the victims. Para naman hindi mukhang umiiwas sila at magpi-finger pointing pa sila na may ibang kasalanan, kayong medics, kayong mga pulis, kay kung sino-sino. Let us make the people who should be responsible accountable. Let us not forget 2 budding lives, promising lives were lost in that tragedy. Someone has to take the blame and someone has to take the fall and bear responsibility.
Well, again, my thanks to Atty. Carlo Ybañez and Atty. Ferdinand Topacio for helping us weigh the criminal, civil, and institutional questions behind this sad and heartbreaking case. An accident and an act of negligence can look the same from the shore. The law's task is to tell them apart carefully and without fear or favor. 2 young men set out for a training drill and never came home. Whatever the investigations conclude, the least we owe Rene Baterbonia and Divine Adili is the truth and a system that learns from it. This is Abogado. Good night.